fantastically creepy movie you've made. Well done, really. Are you happy with it?
I think so. I think, judging by judging by the reaction we've seen from the audience so far, I mean, it's so gratifying, just people reacting to the film the way we wanted it.
At a certain point, we usually give up on our own opinion of the film and we start laughing at it more than anything. The audience decides whether it's a good film or not, and so...
And they laugh as well.
Yeah, they laugh as well. So we would probably say we're happy with it, but we're most happy that we're seeing all these tweets and Facebook posts and messages from people saying that they love the film. Because it's their movie. The audience owns the film.
What's it like the first time you saw it with an audience? Because that must be like the most nerve-wracking time. You've lived with this film, the two of you. And
what's the very first time?
The very first time I saw it, believe it or not, is the very first test screening. Hollywood loved the test screens and everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so the very first time I saw it was at a test screening, and it's the most nerve-wracking thing. It's the kind of stuff that director hates. And when we test screened the film for the first time, to the general public, I was like, oh my goodness, I have no idea how this film's going to play. Up until now, I've only shown it to a few friends, but they know a bit about the project. But watching it with the test screen audience, and just literally watching them getting into the movie, screaming and jumping and laughing, I was like, oh my goodness, we may have something here. And so I actually learned a lot. I mean, the upside with test screening is you learn what works and what don't work when you're sitting there with them, right? And so then I kind of like, from that I learned a lot. I tweaked it a little bit, and the next time I really played it to a huge crowd, and I mean a huge crowd, was at the Toronto Film Festival.
And that was something we were really worried about, because that's the sort of section of the Toronto Film Festival that the film played in is called Midnight Madness. So it's these movies that screen at midnight. They're these
for hardcore fans.
Yeah, they're all on Red Bull. They want to see some films that they can participate in.
Yeah.
And James and I were terrified that this movie is not really an audience participation film. It's quiet. It's not a movie that you can watch at midnight and yell and scream. And so we went in there thinking, oh man,
it's not like your fun sort of like over the top Evil Dead type movie.
It's not Shaun of the Dead.
Those films play really well at these festivals, and this is kind of more like an old-fashioned haunted house film, right? And a really quiet, brooding one. So I was like, I don't know how this is gonna play, and it played completely the opposite to what we were initially fearing.
It turns out it is an audience participation film.
Yeah.
And that night at the Toronto Film Festival was the night we found out that we were wrong in our assumptions that this was a movie that would put the audience to sleep because it's so quiet.
Well, that's a good thing.
We're thinking it's already midnight.
So it's midnight, so late.
People are going to be like, the film, we had perceived it in a certain way of being a quiet, brooding film. It's actually a film that has a very loud, if you see it in a theatre, it has a very loud audience noise break.
Into Dalton's room. There was something in there with him. I know someone who can help.
It does, and I was thinking that you were being a bit modest before, because when I saw it last week, the first few minutes, they seem kind of traditional, but I think that's kind of lulling you into a full sense of security.
Yes.
Because as soon as, I'm actually getting chills just thinking about it. I actually got goosebumps. I never get goosebumps. When the first face appeared at the window, or when you just see something out of the corner of your eye, you're very good at doing that. I've seen, in all your movies, you see, it's like, what was that? What was that? And there are so many moments like that, and people were just, getting crazier and crazier, and they would scream, and there was a girl behind me, she jumped out of her seat, she kept knocking me, and then people would give this kind of laugh, but it would be this nervous kind of laughter, like they were trying to reassure themselves, and it's like, fantastic, really great audience.
That's one thing we've observed. Big screams are always followed by laughter and pushing and shoving, and like, oh, you screamed, I saw you jump. It's kind of the audience kind of...
it's like roller coasters, right? When you go down like a big dive and everyone's like screaming, the next moment you do is like everyone's kind of like cracking up and go, oh, I can't believe I just fell for that or whatever. It's basically that, And that's really what I really wanted to do when I set out to make this film, which is make a movie, because every time you hear people tell ghost stories, they never really tell you, I saw someone standing right there looking at me and it was a ghost. And it's always like, I saw something in the corner of my eyes. And that was what I really wanted to capture with this film. That whole seeing entities, seeing apparitions, through the peripheral vision.
When maybe you question it later, like, wait, did I see something?
Did I see something? Yeah.
I mean, if you can put the audience in the mind of a real ghost story where they're like, where the audience member is going, hang on, was that something there? Then that's awesome. Now they're living the movie.
We took tri-field and EMF readings of the whole house, wiring, alarm clocks.
I don't think bad wiring is the problem here.
I want to leave. I want to leave this house. What is it?
I mean, what's the formula? What's the secret? Because I see a lot of horror films, and most of them, they're either like, torture porn or teenage slashers. And the older I get,
like the Saw films, right?
well, I think that would be in a kind of class of its own. But it seems like that they're not scary. They're bloody. They're fun, but they're not actually. You're not frightened when you go home. You're not a little bit nervous. And when I went home, I was thinking about that thing in the that they draw with the red face.
Right. I say making a movie that shock you like that, with blood and guts, is very easy to pull off. It's a crutch that the horror film genre use to basically lean against, because you can really rely on that. And but that really wasn't the kind of film Lee and I wanted to make with Insidious. We wanted to make a movie that really gets into your head and plant an insidious seed that just creeps in there, that just grow and grow, and that's the whole idea is, we want you to enjoy and be scared out of your wits while you're watching the film, but we also want you to be scared witless when you're at home late at night and go, oh God, I'm about to switch all my lights off and go to bed now. What if there's something standing in the corner of the room? That's the kind of chills that Lee and I love, That's the kind of filmmaking for these kind of scary... We feel like the problem with a lot of scary movies these days is they're not scary.
They're not scary.
And I'm like, okay, they call horror films, but you can't call them scary films. If they just rely on blood and guts to try and gross you out, that's fine, but they cannot call themselves scary films. And Lee and I did not want to make a horror film, we wanted to make a scary movie. And that was our aim, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very functional. It's like, if you go and see a comedy, you expect to laugh.
Yes.
If you walked out of a comedy and didn't laugh once throughout the whole film, you'd be questioning it. You'd be thinking, well, that didn't deliver. And to us, horror's the same. We want people to walk out saying, wow, that's one of the scariest films I've ever seen. I mean, and if you're making a zombie film where limbs are being torn off, then great, that's cool. We like that.
Yeah. That's when you want to see the goods, like prosthetic gauze and stuff like that. But I think to make a truly scary movie in today's world is very, very hard. People are so desensitized, so people are so used to watching all these ghost hunter shows on TV. There've been so many horror films over the years, and it's very difficult. And I actually really relish that challenge to want to get back out there with Insidious, to make a film like Insidious, and make a film that people actually come out and go and have the most jaded, hardcore horror fans go, you got me. I was squirming in my seat, and that was a really frightening movie. And so far, that seems to be the reaction that we're getting so far.
I wish I could erase my brain. Well, I guess I could with enough glue.
Yeah, exactly.
And watch the movie fresh as if it was a new movie I'd never seen. To see whether it would actually scare me. Because, both James and I are pretty hard on horror films. I can probably count on one hand the number of films that have truly scared me in my life. And I wonder if this film would actually scare me. I hope it would.
It's not the house that's haunted. It's your son.